Number 8. Yarmush Ashuk. Emre Ashuk, a former Turkish soccer star, married Yarmush in 2012. A few years after his retirement, the couple had 3 children. Their life together seemed idyllic until Emre found that his wife had been having an affair and decided to file for divorce. 27-year-old Yarmush started plotting to murder him in order to inherit his wealth, enlisting the help of her lover, Erdi Şunger. The woman was extensively involved in preparing the assassination of her husband, in which Şunger was meant to act as the gunman. Yarmush provided him with a gun and asked him to practice by shooting a piece of meat. Şunger ultimately couldn't go through with it and acted as a liaison between Yarmush and an unnamed hitman. He was promised the equivalent of $1.2 million. Yarmush gave him the weapon and even offered to help find secluded areas where to dispose of the body. At the last moment, the hitman had a change of heart and told Emre, his intended target, about the murder plot. Yarmush and Şunger were arrested and charged with attempted murder. Number 7. Adolf Coors III. Adolf Coors III, CEO and heir to the Coors Brewing Company fortune, was murdered during a failed kidnapping attempt in 1960. On February the 6th, the 45-year-old left home for work. The police would later find his car abandoned on Turkey Creek Bridge near Morrison, Colorado. The following day, his wife received a note demanding $500,000 for his safe release. What followed was one of the largest investigative efforts in FBI history, stretching from California to Vancouver, Canada. In September, Coors' remains were found in the Rocky Mountains. The evidence and witness testimonies the FBI had gathered led them to escaped murderer Joseph Corbett Jr. He'd spent some time in a maximum security prison for shooting a man in the back of the head, which he alleged had been in self-defense. He then escaped custody following a transfer to a minimum security facility. The authorities released wanted posters, and a woman in Vancouver identified a man of Corbett's description living in her area. He was tracked down and arrested. The key piece of evidence in his conviction was dirt from his car with a composition of granite minerals and rare pink feldspar, typical of the area where Coors' remains had been found. Corbett was sentenced to life with the possibility of parole. He always maintained his innocence and was released in 1980 for good behavior. In 2009, at the age of 80, he committed suicide. He lived and died just 10 miles from where he'd killed Coors. Number 6. Helene Pastor. Billionaire Helene Pastor, the granddaughter of property magnate Jean-Baptiste Pastor, was the richest woman in Monaco. She and her family owned 15% of Monaco's housing stock. On May the 6th of 2014, she was being driven from a hospital in western Nice when a gunman opened fire on her car. Her chauffeur died from his gunshot injuries. Pastor was in a coma for several weeks but eventually passed away as well at the age of 77. In June of 2014, her son-in-law, Wojciech Janowski, admitted to ordering the shooting. The motive was gaining access to the immense fortune through Pastor's daughter, Sylvia, who was his common-law wife. Janowski would later retract his admission, claiming he hadn't understood the questions he'd been asked in French by the police. He maintained that he was innocent, but in 2018, a few weeks into his trial, formally admitted to ordering the hit through his lawyer. He was sentenced to life in prison. Number 5. Fahim Saleh. Entrepreneur Fahim Saleh, who was known as the Elon Musk of the developing world, initially made his fortune as a self-taught programmer. He then co-founded the ride company Pathao, popular in Bangladesh and Nepal, as well as Gokada, a ride-hail startup for motorbike taxis, popular in Nigeria. These were just some of the business ventures through which Saleh had amassed close to $150 million by the time he was only 33 years old. On July the 13th of 2020, neighbors heard shouting coming from Saleh's luxury apartment on Manhattan's Lower East Side. They called his sister, who arrived at the apartment the following day to find a gruesome scene. Saleh's limbs and head were in garbage bags, while his torso was found next to an electric saw. He'd been stabbed to death prior to dismemberment. It's believed that the killer was cleaning the scene when he was forced to flee, interrupted by Saleh's sister. Only a few days later, the CEO's personal assistant, 21-year-old Tyrese Devon Haspil, was arrested for the killing. Using Saleh's credit card, he'd bought an electric saw and cleaning supplies at Home Depot after the murder. An investigation revealed a possible motive. Saleh had discovered that Haspil had stolen thousands of dollars from him. He didn't report the theft, but instead set up a plan for Haspil to pay him back. Nevertheless, Haspil murdered him, according to the police. The trial is ongoing and the suspected killer has yet to have been convicted. Number 4. Jahseh Dwayne Ricardo Onfroy. American rapper Jahseh Dwayne Ricardo Onfroy, known to those who followed his music as XXXTentacion, was gunned down in June of 2018. Onfroy had earned a cult following through his music and was worth at least $5 million at the time of his death. He was browsing motorcycles at Riva Motorsports in Deerfield Beach, Florida. 2 men followed him into the store, where they bought 2 face masks. Onfroy then got into his black BMW i8 and started driving away from the dealership. Shortly afterwards, he was blocked from exiting the parking lot by a Dodge Journey SUV. 2 men exited the vehicle and approached the rapper as he sat in the passenger seat. After a brief struggle, Onfroy was shot multiple times in the neck. From the rapper's vehicle, the attackers took a Louis Vuitton bag containing approximately $50,000 in cash. Onfroy was taken to a Deerfield Beach hospital, where he was pronounced dead. 4 suspects were arrested in the aftermath, including alleged triggermen Trayvon Newsom and Michael Boatwright, with the latter believed to have delivered the fatal shot. Number 3. Edouard Stern. Throughout a career that spanned roughly 3 decades, French banker Edouard Stern had amassed a fortune of over $1 billion. Stern was known for his brilliant business ideas, but also for his eccentric lifestyle. On March 1st of 2005, his body was found in his Geneva apartment. He had been shot 4 times. Stern was still wearing a latex bodysuit and had an adult toy inserted in his body from what had apparently been a sadomasochistic bondage session. The killing was traced back to Cecile Broussard, Stern's longtime lover, whom some media outlets described as a high-end escort. The murder weapon, Stern's own revolver, and the dominatrix outfit that Broussard had worn were recovered from Lake Geneva. According to court documents, she'd asked him to transfer $1 million into her account as proof of his love for her. An argument ensued, at which point Stern was shot in the head. Broussard confessed to the killing, but her defense argued it had been a crime of passion and not one motivated by money. She was sentenced to 8 years in prison and released on parole in November of 2010. Today's topic was requested by Romella Kami. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Edmond Safra. In December of 1999, the death of billionaire banker Edmond Safra attracted widespread media attention due to the mysterious circumstances in which it occurred. The 67-year-old was at his luxury Monaco penthouse, where he felt safe enough that he hadn't asked his team of bodyguards to stay the night. At his home, Safra was joined by his nurse, Vivian Torrente, and Ted Mayer, a former Green Beret turned registered nurse. A fire broke out at the heavily fortified residence, which rapidly expanded, causing Safra and Torrente to be suffocated by the fumes. Mayer told the authorities that the property had been attacked by 2 masked intruders. He admitted to having deliberately set off the fire, hoping that by doing so he'd trigger Safra's complex security system, which he didn't know how to operate. He had cuts on his body that appeared to corroborate his story. It later emerged that Mayer had started the fire in a bizarre attempt to increase his standing with his boss and earn a promotion. He was hoping to orchestrate a daring rescue but lost control of the blaze. Mayer's knife injuries had also been self-inflicted. In 2002, for the arson deaths of Safra and Torrente, he was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Number 1. Osage Nation and the Reign of Terror. In the late 19th century, massive oil reserves were discovered in present-day Osage County, Oklahoma, on land owned by the Osage Nation. Through the Bureau of Indian Affairs, the tribe entered an agreement with the US government through which portions of their territory were leased for oil exploration and production. By the 1920s, with rising oil prices, the Osage grew incredibly wealthy. In 1923 alone, the tribe took in more than $30 million, which today would amount to hundreds of millions. They became the richest people per capita in the world, an aspect that was widely advertised in contemporary media. They lived in mansions, bought expensive cars, clothes, and jewelry, vacationed to Europe, or sent their children to private schools. The newfound prosperity of Osage County attracted legitimate entrepreneurs but also criminals, who were seeking to separate the tribe from their wealth. It also challenged preconceived notions about Native Americans, some of whom had white servants at the time. The US Congress then decided that the Osage weren't prepared to handle or protect their riches. It passed a law that required courts to appoint guardians from local white businessmen or lawyers. They were meant to manage the oil royalties and financial affairs for Osage of half-blood or more in ancestry until they proved a supposed competency. The decision would open a gateway for extreme criminality. In the 1920s, the tribe fell under what the press would label as a reign of terror. Since Osage shares couldn't be sold but only inherited, their guardians maneuvered to come into possession of their land or royalties. Unprotected by local law enforcement, some were swindled, but many were outright killed. By 1925, at least 60 wealthy Osage had died with their deeds or land inherited by their guardians. The Bureau of Investigations, which would later become the FBI, identified a market for contract killing in the county. The Osage death toll is suspected of being in the hundreds, but few of the murders were reported or investigated. A suit initiated by the Osage Nation against the Department of Interior was settled in 2011 for $380 million and the promise of future improvement for management programs. Thanks for watching. Would you accept $10 million knowing that for the following year there would be a hitman contract on your life? Let us know in the comments section below.